Thank you very much, Ms. Matthew, for your brief introduction. Let me recognize the press who is here this morning at another roundtable discussion. As I've been said before, this engagement is an ongoing engagement to ensure that the public is up to date with all of the relevant information and to promote transparency in a dialogue between myself and the press, which I think is very, very important. I also want to say that this government continues to be open, it seeks dialogue, and it's people centered. That is the only way we believe that governance can be fully maximized to the benefit of our people who are at the center of all of our policies. Let me just update the meeting, and we'll have an opportunity, or the dialogue rather, we'll have an opportunity to ask specific questions in areas that are, of course, of national interest, and I will mention some of them. So once again, I'm happy that we are here again at the round table. Let me just update on CARICOM. CARICOM held its 48th regular meeting, Heads of Government in Barbados, February 19 to 21, where we took a robust delegation, including myself and Foreign Minister, Senior Minister, the Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, along with Permanent Secretary from my office, Ambassador Larry Vaughan, other representatives from the Foreign Affairs, and also the Press Secretary, Mr. Javan Libard. This meeting, we discussed the matter of free movement of CARICOM nationals. I would just like to state categorically that there's a carve-out for St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think Antigua as well, with respect to the full implementation of the CARICOM free movement. Let me state it clearly that St. Kitts and Nevis has not signed on to this. Last roundtable, there seemed to have been some, I would say, miscommunication, not on my part, but I'm not accusing the press of it at all. Maybe persons who were listening and intended to misinform the people. So I want to state it categorically. I think that's categorically enough. I also want to say that we discussed the issue of regional security and crime. We were able to form among heads, three of us to lead on this, including chairperson, Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, along with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, we have a new Prime Minister now, and we'll know exactly by the 18th, 19th, 20th of this month who will be there. But whoever the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago will be a member of this, and myself. And so we have engaged three principal persons to deal with this. We are looking at a criminologist, a public health expert, and we have asked a retired judge from Belize to head to chair this three-person lead to deal with the issues of regional security and crime. We have not yet identified a health expert, which we are going through, and I communicated recently with the chairperson, the Prime Minister of Barbados. We also discussed issues of climate resilience and renewable energy transition. Just to say that the European Union, who is represented by its president and the president of the European Commission, declared that the European Union is interested in buying renewable energy from CARICOM. And so our geothermal resource that is located on the island of Nevis was, of course, put forward as a possible offtake by the European Union in terms of their energy buy around the world. And so that has come. That is great news. And we are putting together a team from the CARICOM to engage the European Union to take it even further if they will be willing to even make the necessary investments as well to get us up to capacity to sell them energy in the form of hydrogen, principally the sources being geothermal, wind, and solar. And we should not exclude, of course, waves. The Caribbean is an energy-rich place in terms of renewable energy, and we can leverage this as a new type of new economic advancement. As I've said before, based on our sustainable island state agenda, that energy is at the center. If we resolve our energy issue through renewable energy sources, we would resolve a lot of our issues. And those words are not just my words, but if we were to go back and look at the IMF report of 2023, we would realize where the IMF actually did an analysis and showed that our transition to renewable energy would stabilize us in many ways, including economically and fiscally. And so when we started SEED, as we can remember, because as I've said before, the CBI cannot be our main source of income because that is a very vulnerable aspect of our economy. It is very, very vulnerable. I said it from day one that it would be the toughest thing that I have to deal with. And what you have seen has demonstrated that, and that we needed to quickly pivot. And so we would seek a new strategy of diversification where we came up with a sustainable island state, and at the center of it is renewable energy. And we are pursuing that very vigorously. And I'm sure you'll have questions on it, because as you know, the Premier of Navies and I, we have passed a resolution in the House where we declared that the geothermal is a national asset and we'll develop it as the federation. And we have made significant progress. We have raised the money to do the initial build out of the geothermal project. But I'll get more on that because it's very exciting how far we have reached with respect to that. We also spoke about food security. As you know, food security is very, very important. We are now collaborating on a number of projects throughout CARICOM, with Guyana being the lead on it. Honorable Dr. Irfan Ali, President of Cooperative Republic of Guyana, is the lead on this, and he has actually put out a documentation. So we continue to work on the issues of food security. We know what is happening with these tariffs, but I would like to state categorically here that St. Kitts and Nevis has a deficit with the United States of America. I'll take this opportunity to give you all the numbers, and I will repeat them again sometime later on. We have a serious deficit, which means that the United States benefit much more from us. So unlike the issue that the United States has with other regions, it is positive for the United States. I got these numbers from the Controller of Customs, and he reported them to me. So I want to give this number to the press. When it comes to imports from the United States of America, in 2024, we imported, and this is the number in EC dollars, $754,029,809. $754,029,809 that we imported from the United States of America. In terms of our exports, we only exported $23,901,046.15. $23,901,046.15. That deficit, of course, if you were to do the calculation, is almost $750 million. Almost $750 million that we have a deficit with the United States of America. In other words, the United States of America has a surplus in trade when it comes to St. Kitts and Nevis. Across the CARICOM, the number is calculated to be about $54 billion. This is just goods coming through the airport. Services, we'll do another calculation. But I brought that based on what is expected to happen today. The CARICOM, based on calculations, and I received this from our ambassador in the United States of America in a document that she sent, we have a deficit as a CARICOM of about $54 billion with the United States of America. That's the number that was given to me. So it clearly shows that unlike other regions which have a surplus with the United States in terms of trade, Canada, Mexico, and so forth, we have a deficit. In other words, the United States benefits much more from trading with the Caribbean region than the Caribbean region does with the United States of America. I wanted to take my time with those numbers because in your writings, I hope that these numbers would be reflected in your articles and your news items. St. Kitts and Nevis has a strong case to make when it comes to tariffs. The evidence shows that we don't deserve these tariffs that can increase the cost of living for our people. Look at the deficits that we are running. This is in favor of the United States of America. On food security, there's some more that I can discuss with respect to our ongoing plans and so forth. But from a CARICOM perspective, that was discussed. Also, the trade deficit was also discussed at CARICOM. It was acknowledged that we have a trade deficit with the United States, meaning that the United States has a surplus with us. The ongoing situation in Haiti was also discussed. And again, this matter showed that Haiti continues to be a very dangerous place in terms of the gangs and so forth. But in discussions with CARICOM and the United States of America, the United States of America is pledging that they would continue to support the stability of Haiti, just by way of report. I also want to say that we, of course, from the OECS level, that for the CARICOM, from the OECS level, the 76th authority meeting, and we saw the accession of St. Martin, and this was held between March 18th and the 21st of March. This St. Martin is now advancing to be an associate member of the OECS. And so we welcome St. Martin, of course, to the community, to the OECS. And we're encouraging the other part of St. Martin to consider as well. They had started to make moves. I met with the Prime Minister of Dutch St. Martin, and I met with the president of the French St. Martin. French St. Martin has now gone ahead, and Dutch St. Martin, from my discussions with the Prime Minister of the Dutch side, that they too would seek to be a member of the OECS. Now, we at the OECS meeting discussed economic cooperation, climate change response, health and education collaboration, and regional trade. Basically, a lot of the same topics that CARICOM discussed. But as you know, the OECS is much closer because these are the islands that we are closer to, and I would say that our socio-economic situations are very much parallel. And so we are almost, homogeneous, and so it's easier to implement policies across the OECS sometimes. And so I want to thank the leader of St. Martin and the people of St. Martin for an excellent OECS meeting that we had there. Now, on March 25th to 28th, I traveled to Abuja, Nigeria, where we had the Afro-Caribbean Investment Summit, St. Kitts and Nevis focused. This was a bold move, a revolutionary move, also a groundbreaking move, rather, to really link the African continent with the Caribbean, and specifically St. Kitts and Nevis. As you know, Nigeria economically is considered the powerhouse of Africa, along with South Africa. It is an extremely large country with the largest population on the African continent and the largest population of Black people around the world. Around 250 million people and counting, and it is a young population. From all indications, Nigeria has what it takes to become an extremely developed country, in the sense that it has people, it has resources, soil, minerals, gas, and oil. And if you have people, you have land, and you have those types of minerals and natural resources and energy, it means, therefore, that you have what it takes to advance your country. And so it is projected that Nigeria will continue to grow economically, and it's important that we make the connection. The trip was extremely rewarding. I traveled with the Premier of Nevis, who is also the leader of the opposition, to declare to Nigeria that St. Kitts and Nevis politically supports closer ties and closer collaboration. And right now, the African bankers have been supporting very strongly, as you know, and we did a lot of good things in Nigeria, including signing an MOU. That MOU, I think, is a groundbreaking MOU. I don't think an MOU like that has been signed with any other country, Caribbean country, over our history. This is a real concrete move to link the Caribbean with the African continent, as we call it, the motherland. You've always heard that we needed to go back to the motherland. The African Bank is providing financing, which is a reputable bank, and Nigeria is very open. I met with the president of Nigeria, President Tinubu, and I met with him on his birthday. He said he really wanted to meet with me, and even though it was his birthday, he would meet with me. And we met at the official residence, and we had an extremely good conversation. He is committed to the overall objectives that we seek in terms of more investments in St. Kitts and Nevis, and in terms of trade between not just St. Kitts and Nevis, but the Caribbean and Nigeria. And therefore, he has given his political blessing to that in a joint statement to the press that he and I made in Nigeria on his birthday. And I think it has been circulated. I think I would read a little bit now from what I'm sure you would have seen the report in the Trinidadian newspaper with respect to what we are doing. It had reached regionally because it's so groundbreaking. So if you give me a second, I will access it from my phone right here. And I'll read it for you. Okay, good. And from that Trinidad newspaper, I'll read what it says. And it came from CNC3 Television, Trinidad and Tobago. The St. Kitts Nevis government Friday signed a memorandum of understanding with the Nigeria-based Green Economic Zone, GEZ, Green Economic Zone, Special Economic Zone Management Company for the establishment of a state-of-the-art agro-hub warehouse and logistics center on the Caribbean island, our country. That is what we are seeking. And so in speaking with the president, I told him, well, he was aware of what we are seeking to do, and he has given his blessing for this type of engagement. He has also asked that a special team come to St. Kitts and Nevis, and they will be here in St. Kitts and Nevis for our investment summit. Our investment summit, which is to be held in May. We are expecting a team from Nigeria that is being put together, that the president has asked that they come to that investment summit in St. Kitts and Nevis, and asks that the Caribbean, of course, be included as areas to be invested in. We are seeking to establish what you call the African Caribbean Bridge Corporation, ACAB, the African Caribbean Atlantic Corporation. That's it. The African Caribbean Atlantic Corporation, where we are seeking to move goods directly from the west coast of Africa directly into the Caribbean. And that is why we signed that MOU to develop that hub. You can call it ACAB, African Caribbean Atlantic Corporation. We are seeking to build an Atlantic bridge between the west of Africa and the Caribbean. We had something that in the past worked against us, but this time we'll use it to reconnect us in the Caribbean with our people. St. Kitts is the smallest, but I think it was incumbent that somebody made the move, and the smallest country in CARICOM met the largest country on the African continent. And so we are establishing this. We expect there would also be movement, I know, of oil and gas that is being worked on, that is to come into Trinidad. And so we are working right now to move mainly agricultural products. But our discussion is we don't want things to come one direction. So there will be meetings between the minister and the producers here in St. Kitts and Nevis to get our products ready, because we intend to send to the west of Africa our products here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a lot of people who are producing here. We want them to upscale, because Nigeria has a population of 250 million people. If St. Kitts and Nevis were to just cater to 0.05% of that, that is much more than our own population here, and almost any industry here will survive as a result. This is a very, very, I will say, great potential for our people and for our producers here, and we'll continue to push on the Africa Caribbean Atlantic Corporation. We have to do what we have to do as a people to survive. When other leaders in their country do what they have to do, you can't be upset with them. They are doing what they think is right for their country. We must do what we think is right for our country. And so we have to diversify and meet our partners and other partners and create other opportunities for our people. In the Middle East, where we have gone, Africa, where we're heading, we'll be heading to India, the Far East. So we'll be looking for a series of new opportunities to advance our beautiful federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm going to open the floor now, if you just allow me, just to give a quick few updates so that we can get into the discussion. Or maybe I can give these updates after. So I will just say that we continue to power progress with our advancement of the sustainable island state. As you see, we have now done the plastic ban. Plastic is killing our people. We are now becoming flesh and bones and plastic. This is a serious issue with microplastic in our systems, our bodies, in our brains, in our organs. We have to do what we have to do to protect our people. It's an inconvenience, we admit, but it gives opportunity for entrepreneurs, those who are the seamstresses or those who use their machines to sew and can make bags and so forth. They should get into the business, just like we did with the masks. After a while, we stopped importing masks because our people were able to start to make the masks. So all these plastic bags that we had, I would like to see our people now making bags that will be able to be used for shopping and so forth. So it creates opportunities as well. We continue our investments in healthcare. Even at GNF Hospital, we have invested significantly. Education, public safety. We continue to build our renewable energy projects, which I'll have updates on, and we continue to diversify our economy. As I said, it is not easy. It is challenging because we are going from a situation where we depended heavily on the CBI. And as I said from day one, based on what I met when I reached into government with respect to the CBI, that this would be an extremely challenging period to transition from the CBI. And now we see everything that is happening around the CBI. Right, so this administration remains connected and focused on all of our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So basically, I will end it there and give you, the press, the opportunity to ask the questions that you want to ask so that we can have a meaningful discussion for the benefit of all of our people. So I turn it over to you, the press. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister.
So I guess they know the rules already. Yeah, the same rules apply. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister,
You're
Madam
very much
Moderator. I want to start with something that's a little bit apart from where you're going today, and it has to do with something you mentioned in your opening remarks with respect to the fake news, the misinformation. It might sound strange coming from a media practitioner, but I'm wondering whether or not the government is going to seek to do anything to strengthen regulations legislatively with respect to media operations. It seems to me that the integrity of legitimate media houses and media practitioners is undermined when we have a lot of online blogs, bloggers, people operating fake profiles, sharing news under the guise of being legitimate media houses. It is certainly, to me, an issue because it undermines the integrity of the information which is provided to the public. And although the public has a responsibility to wade through the information and determine fact from fiction, it is not always easy to do given the way that some of these entities represent themselves. So I am asking if the time has come for a little bit more. For example, Facebook is something that's private. It's operated by Meta, Instagram, but they have taken measures as a private entity to ensure that factual information is declared, information which is sponsored, for example, information which is not factual is fact-checked. There is some fact-checking that goes on. What can we do here to deal with that problem? Because it's a problem to me. The other question I'd like to ask is with respect to the crime and violence situation in St. Kitts and Nevis. I hate bringing it up because I feel like I'm jinxing a positive situation, but I feel it's necessary to say we've not had any homicides since October last year, at least that I am aware of. That's 5 months homicide free. And I checked with the police department. This has not happened since the early 2000s, and perhaps even earlier than that if you were to consider St. Kitts and Nevis together. You are Minister of National Security. What is your position and opinion on this, and what do you credit to this sort of, I don't know if it's success as yet, but something is changed?
Thank you very much. Those are two questions, so I see you're abiding by the rules. Yes. So let me tackle the one with the fake news. Fake news has become a global phenomenon, and it has not escaped St. Kitts and Nevis. There are bloggers in St. Kitts and Nevis who portray themselves as legitimate persons. I would like to call on the Media Association to put out a press release to say who are legitimate persons who are registered with that association. Times Caribbean Online, which I call the toilet paper, is a blog. It's not news, it is a blog. But all people think it's news. And they're trying to convey to the world that it is news. It is not news. It is fake news. They would not declare themselves. I would like to ask people like Wally Wilkin to declare himself. I'm challenging Wally Wilkin to declare himself. Otherwise, he would have to be declared. If you are basically saying that you are giving real news, why are you hiding? In St. Kitts and Nevis, I see people, St. Kitts and Nevis is a free place, And I think people are taking advantage of the freedom of, not taking advantage of people like Wally. They are misusing and abusing the freedom that they have to speak freely, which I encourage, because this government will never ever seek to censure people. That is not the goal. But at the same time, there must be standards. You must say to people that if you are going to portray that you are giving news, declare who you are, and your news must be in order. It has nothing to do with whether it's supposed to the government or not, because in a democracy, people are going to speak their minds, and if you don't agree with a government policy, then you have a right to criticize a government policy. That's your right. That is where the political debate lies. You propose an alternative and we debate the matter. But when you're going to be out there trying to portray St. Kitts and Nevis as the worst place on earth, St. Kitts and Nevis, as you said, is a place where children have health care, education, a democracy, people can talk freely, low poverty rate. We don't have people sleeping on the streets and children on the road begging. People have a hospital to go to. I mean, there are so many good things happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. But when you look at the fake blog that they have called Times Caribbean, trying to portray St. Kitts as the worst place. Even if you don't like the government, why are you portraying your country like that? With fake news, why would you do that to your country? But I'm calling on the Media Association. And I think that the government should write to the Media Association and say who the members are. And the government should also ask the Media Association, is Times Caribbean registered with you? So that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis can have the truth of who they are. Because they're trying to portray us as worse. So yes, I think that there should be some measures taken. We will take measures. But we don't want any measures to impede people's right to express themselves. That is why I have been looking at it closely, because I don't even want it to be hinted that we are trying to curtail what people say and don't say. I don't want that type of government to ever exist in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's existed before, and I don't want it to exist again. This is a democracy. However, I want to say today that I will be suing two people. One should get their first suit today. I will not call the name yet because I want to see if my lawyer has sent it. So there will be two who will be sued. One today and the next one tomorrow. I'll put it on my Facebook when the sue would have been delivered. I am not playing with people anymore. It is not right that you can just defame me because I'm the Prime Minister. Criticize me if you want to criticize me, but don't defame me. When you defame people, defamation is a criminal act, or it is, let me put it this way. If it's not a criminal act, I guess I have to look at the law and see, but you can be held responsible for seeking to defame people. Just because you have access to a Facebook, you just can't talk about people like that. So let's say you have Devon Cornelius over here and you don't like him. Is it right for you to go on your Facebook and just say all kind of things about him that are not true, that would defame his character? It is not right. No citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis should go through that. I'm not going to make examples of them. And the money I'm going to ask for, I'm going to give 50% of it to charity. I don't really want the money, but I'm going to make an example out of them. I'm going to take them to the court. And no sorry in this, because people must know, criticize, but why you need to attack me and seek to defame my character and lies. So yes, I'm going to take action. When it comes to the other part of it, I really don't want people to feel in St. Kitts and Nevis that they can't speak. Because people should be able to speak. However, when the news becomes such that you're undermining your own country, some sort of action has to be taken. And we're asking the Media Association to call its members in and to reinforce the issues, to reinforce the principles of good ethical practice. And to also declare who is a part of the Media Association and who is not a part of the Media Association, so people can know. So I think that that question will be asked of the Media Association. I think the president is Mr. Andrew Huey, correct? Yes.
Prime Minister, if I just may interject here.
I'll finish the questions. I'll finish. I know Mr. Bad, but she asked a question. Yeah, so no problem. So and then I'll give you the opportunity to do it. So just mark it down. I'll just go quickly on the issue of the crime and violence matter. Again, this is accredited to the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis. This is because the society was called together, the society has come together and has tackled this issue. I have said from day one, even in opposition, that the only way that we can effectively deal with the issue of crime and violence is to come together as a people. No corrupt program would resolve the matter. The peace program was a corrupt program under the Timothy Harris-led administration with his brother. They can't account for millions, tens of millions of dollars from the development bank. I have the audit to say that, and a case is ongoing. And I spoke to the lawyers yesterday that are trying to delay the case. They called the case, We did not sue them, They sued the government and trying all sorts of tactics to delay the case because they don't want the case to be heard. They had a day and a next day for disclosure, and they asked for an extra day. Well, the extra day was yesterday. So I hope once they get the extra day, they are satisfied, because the people of St. Kitts and Nevis deserve to hear this case. I said to the people of St. Kitts, we don't have to be corrupt. Corruption leads to what's happening in Haiti, what's happening in Jamaica over the many years. What happened in El Salvador? You cannot pay for peace. I've always held that. We need programs to help people genuinely. But money was embezzled from the development bank in the name of the peace program, where most of that money went to politicians and their cronies and not the people who were on the program. Hundreds of millions of dollars. The SIDF had hundreds of millions of dollars, near $500 million, and the country was never told once where that money went to. Don't you all ask these questions at the other press conference? Ask these questions. Where's the $500 million? How come you didn't tell us that the SIDF had hundreds of millions of dollars? Where is that money? Let them, the press has, just like how you all come here to hold me accountable, you must hold them accountable as well. They need to be held accountable. Where is the money? And there's somebody talking on radio, and they used to take the money out in a plastic bag. I'm going to reveal that at the right time, because the case is ongoing. They used to come out the bank with money in a plastic bag. That is what they're upset about. That is why every Wednesday they go on a radio show. Have them on tape, have them recorded. I have not revealed those things. People are too bold sometimes. If you know you're wrong, take wrong and try to be quiet now. You're wrong and still making a lot of noise. But I'm simply saying, with respect to all of that, that the St. Kitts and Nevis should learn us a lesson. That when we come together, I talk to the Premier of Nevis as the leader of the opposition. I say we're going to take crime off the table for, this type of partisan political discussion. Let us come together as a people. I asked Pam, and I want to thank Pam for coming forward. I asked PLP, they hesitated. You remember they missed the first meeting, and he said, the leader of PLP said he did not get the email. We put the email in the press. And he said he doesn't use that email. But that is your official email that you say you use. And then showed up for the second meeting. We have to come together and be honest about it. I used to ask for us to be called to the table when I was in opposition and never got the call. I would have been happy to go to the table to discuss the issue of crime and violence, because putting in a corrupt system would only lead St. Kitts down a rabbit hole of almost total destruction, where you put people in a position to take over the country, instead of helping people genuinely and through programs that can really help people to get a real second chance and a third chance if required. And so I want to attribute the success to the whole of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to thank all the political parties for coming together. I want to thank the Christian community, the sporting community. I want to thank all the different ministries. I want to thank the youth. I want to thank Elevate. I want to thank, of course, it is premised on the strategy that we brought forward, that I had been espousing for some time, dealing with crime and violence from a public health perspective. And I want to thank Dr. Isben Williams, going to being the keynote speaker in Trinidad when it was being launched. But it just so happened, because this is my area, I have studied this, and so I understand it maybe a little bit more as a leader, just because of my profession, nothing special. And then sought to implement it. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, who have been at the table since day one and continues to be at the table. I want to thank the UN representative who is at the table. So all of us are at the table, opposition, government, all of us are at the table, to make sure that we can get the result under the principle of dealing with crime and violence from a public health perspective, which is all hands on deck type of approach. And I want to thank the task force, the Citizen Security Task Force. That task force has been working very hard. I want to thank them for their hard work and encourage them to continue to work hard on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And if we continue to do that, we'll develop a very peaceful place, a very peaceful country. And that is what we should want, irrespective of your political affiliation. You should want a peaceful country. Imagine there are people out there just waiting for homicide to happen. Just waiting to say, you see, even though you have some of the best results you have had in the last 20-something years, even if one were to happen here or there, you'll still have the best results in the last 20-something years. But people are waiting to spread bad news about St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, cherish your country. Work hard for the development and advancement of your country. We don't have to agree on everything, but there are some things that we must agree on. And peace and a peaceful country must be one of those things. And so I want to thank the law enforcement, Commissioner Sutton and his team. They have been working extremely hard. I want to thank Acting Commander Sutton of the Defense Force. They have been working extremely hard. The judicial system, all, even the leadership at His Majesty's prison, as it is now, those who lead Elevate, and the participants themselves of Elevate, and the young people of St. Kitts and Nevis who are saying, we want a different reality. We can have the reality that we desire to have if we decide to work together as a people. So I want this issue of crime and violence, which people thought was an impossible situation to do, that in a short time working together, look at the results that we have had. Even when they had the peace program, the results now, they would not have been seen since 20-something years ago. So it means that we are onto something. So let us continue to build it and wish it well and put all resources behind it. Because at the end of the day, who ain't want to walk down the road cool and calm? Who ain't want to be able to send the child down the road knowing that the child can come back? Who ain't want to know they can walk home? Who does not want that? We all want that. So let us work. I encourage all of us to continue to work to keep St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'm extremely proud of this result. And I said when I went to CARICOM, I said from day one, if you go back and listen to me, this is a scientifically proven approach. I said it will work. I have no doubt in my mind that it would work. But do we have the political will to implement it? And do we have the drive as a people to implement it? It will work. It will always work because it's scientifically proven. I know it will work. I happen to be an area that I have studied as a professional. And therefore, we know what will work. And therefore, we should continue to use this approach and better it and improve it and work it and modify it and tweak it where we have to make sure that we continue to see the results that we want as a people. So I want to encourage our people to become a peaceful people, a loving people, a caring people, that we can have political differences, but we are not going to compromise a peaceful and beautiful St. Kitts and Nevis. I think we can all agree to that. Thank you very much. Mr. Glenn Batt.
Glenn Batt from SK Newsline. I just want to make a quick comment on the matter that was raised in fake news. And I speak in the capacity of being the first vice president of the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Right.
And just this morning, in the last couple of days, actually, we have been aware of a publication that has been going around, which is fake news, AI generated. And I just want to say that in terms of, we will have a statement coming out soon.
Yes.
But in terms of membership, I just want to say categorically that entities that are not properly registered in the Federation, legally registered, cannot access membership in the association.
Thank you.
So a particular publication that you've mentioned is definitely not part of the Media Association.
Not part of the Media Association. Right. Thank you very much. So you're saying that Times Caribbean and SKN Times are not part of the Media Association.
That's correct.
Correct. Thank you very much, and I hope that all of our people would have heard that. Okay.
Now, just to go on to my question, just to say that I'm glad to hear and see that the relationship between Africa and the Caribbean is actually growing. It's something that I've always believed in, and better later than never. Right? So I'm very happy. But I just want to clarification though.
Yes.
With regards to the green economic zone arrangement and the state-of-the-art logistic warehouse for St. Kitts, and then the African Caribbean Atlantic Cooperation, can you just define what each of those are going to be doing? so that we're kind of clear as to what each component is involved in.
Right. Thank you very much. So with respect with the hub is going to be built on St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's to receive, for example, goods and services, goods really from Western Africa that will come into this hub. And then from this hub, we can distribute throughout the Caribbean. And then what we want to do is to collect from St. Kitts and Nevis and the Caribbean in terms of goods to go back to West Africa, so that that hub is a logistics, so it arranges, of course, the logistics of movement, and it's a hub where you can have receive and send. So that is what? So that is what we signed. And the minister with responsibility for agriculture, cooperatives, and so forth, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, he signed it directly with this zone. And so in terms of the corporation that I'm speaking about, that is what we are proposing that it be called, but is a corporation already. Corporation meaning is not a corporation in the sense, it is the relationship, or working together rather. So a corporation in that means working together, not a co-op, but a corporation, right? The cooperation between, or the working together between these two areas. That is what we want to term it. So the logistical hub is to make sure that we can move things. We had already calculated that to move things from West Africa to the Caribbean is about 15 days to get across. The Atlantic, that route is well known. We know what it was used for before. It was used to move slaves. But we are saying it is a bridge between Africa and the Caribbean that we're going to use to get our people back together again in a very cooperative way so that we can help each other in terms of our socio-economic development. And that bridge is well established for centuries, that had been used. They used to use these wooden boats from Europe across the Atlantic. Why can't we use modern ships now to move goods from Western Africa into the Caribbean and Caribbean? Africa has over 1 billion people. That is a market. If the Caribbean were to just get 1% of that market, we'll be able to sell everything that we have. 1% of 1 billion. Those of you who know a little more maths than me, you understand how many millions I'm talking about. If you get 5% of that, you can develop so many industries meeting the needs of the African continent across what we'll call the Atlantic Bridge. So we'll work to it. I'm happy that President Tinubu was able to say we'll work. The African Bank, we will work. It will take hard work. It's a bold move, but it's a necessary move. So that is where we are with it. So in that sense, that is what it means.
Right, my next question then. Some weeks ago, this famous list of countries included, I think it's 4 Eastern Caribbean countries that were involved in the CBI programs, appeared. And the claim is that there could be, depending on what happens down the line, travel bans imposed by the United States administration. My question is, therefore, between then and now, has the United States administration communicated directly with St. Kitts and Nevis in regards to those concerns or that list? And if they have, what exactly are the concerns? And if they have not, do you think that the situation is credible enough to warrant St. Kitts and Nevis and the other OECS countries involved creating a strategic plan as to how they're going to engage the United States?
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bat. That is let me first say that when that came out, I did not know it was out. I received a message from the highest representation at the U.S. Embassy in Barbados, because a new ambassador has not been appointed since the last ambassador left the position after the change of administration in the United States of America, Ambassador Roger, who was a hard worker there. And I received that message, and she said to me, PM, we know that this is in the media. Let me state that we have no knowledge of this, and Washington has not communicated anything to us. So we inquired at all levels, and everybody said there's nothing that they have seen of such. As a matter of fact, a representative from the State Department was asked subsequently in a press conference, and she said, I can't even speak to it because there's no list. But is Washington constantly reviewing things? Yes. And so we saw that, we inquired about it. Of course, it was discussed at the level of OECS, and OECS is going to engage the United States of America. I spoke to the Director General this morning about our plan to engage the United States of America. And the head of CARICOM now, Chair, Prime Minister Motley, in her official report after the meeting, she said that she brought it up with the United States, and discussions are ongoing as to when OECS would meet with the United States. But one of the proposed time is during the spring meeting, which is to take place at the further, I think it's the third to fourth week of this present month in April. And so that had been sought. And so they have said there's no list, there's nothing really there that we can discuss on that particular matter. So our strategy is that all the countries come together. We have decided that we should go and engage and see, what they, but this engagement is an ongoing engagement. United States of America is one of our closest allies, has always been. And so we want to have continuous dialogue and discussion with the United States of America. We may not agree on everything because we can't. They have their own interests and we have our own interests as well. However, we have had a tremendously good relationship, and we want to continue that excellent relationship that we have had with the United States of America. So she has said to me, there's no list. However, we are seeking to have that dialogue going forward.
Devon Cornelius, ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation. With regards to the figures that you mentioned regarding imports and exports, can you break down what categories of goods make up this figure? And what are the implications for our local industries? What measures is your administration implementing to ensure that there is a boost in local production? And the second question also has to do with the US. So we note that other countries in the region have engaged with the US on the Cuban medical doctor issue. Can you detail any conversations St. Kitts and Nevis has had with the United States on this matter?
Right. Thank you very much. With respect to the goods, I don't have the figures of how we would break down that. I just sought the overall figure, but that is something that can be had easily, could be had easily from the customs, for example. So that can be provided. But the overall number is what I wanted to present to show the world and people of St. Kitts and Nevis that the United States has a trade surplus with us. And the numbers I show shock people. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars here. Now, when it comes to the issue of production, we want to increase our production. For example, we are going into large-scale farming once again. One of the first projects we are doing is the pepper project, which is on its way presently. We have already secured the land, 100 acres in the Keon area. We have already put the order in to get all of the fencing material. We have already have the bulldozer on the site clearing the land. So we are going through land prep at this particular time. Each 10 acres will employ, I think, 30 people. I think that's what it is. Each 10 acres will employ 30 people. But it would employ a significant number of people. I can say that to you. And if each 10 acres employ 30 people, you multiply 30 by 10, that's 300 people, correct? What we want to do is the land that is growing guinea grass in St. Kitts. We know what guinea grass is. We want to stop go guinea grass and go food for our food security. We want to put that 100 acres under production. That will be a large-scale undertaking from the government that had not been seen since the closing of the sugar industry in 2005. We intend to farm hundreds of acres of land. So we're going to start with the first 100 acres. So it'll be a combination of our pepper project plus other food types that we'll be doing. I want to, of course, say today that we did the first trial with the Tabasco pepper project, and it was extremely successful. The trees grew tremendously well. and they have producing well. We know that we have good soil. God has blessed us with good soil. And it was demonstrated once again with this project. So right now we are clearing that 100 acres of land in Keon, and you all should have the opportunity to go and see it. I'm going to go and see it on Friday. And I think the Minister of Education, the Honorable Samuel Duggins, has been working very hard. And so I think he will visit there and give an update. Maybe he and I might visit the land area and give an update to the country as to where that. I say all of that, that is one of our moves to include production. As you know, that product will go back to the United States of America. So that will be an export for us. So based on the criteria that is being sought to put tariffs on country, we really should not fit into that. We should not fit into that. The United States exports significant amount, and we order a lot of things from the United States of America in the hundreds of millions. And we only export about 10 million. And we need to improve that. And I think that that was said by the United States of America as well. So we are working on that. So just to let you know that that's one of the areas that we'll be definitely working on as well. How can we get more products to the United States of America as we are trade with them, trade also with the western part of Africa, so that we can have multiple routes of trade. And so we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. Diversification is important. With respect to the Cuban medical matter, I had put out a statement. And my statement was a measured statement to answer the question being asked. Is St. Kitts and Nevis violating labor laws when it comes to the Cuban doctors? As you know, we are signatories at the United Nations level when it comes to human trafficking and practicing good labor, having good labor practices. We are part of ILO, the International Labor Organization, that deals with the rights of workers. My party is the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. We ushered in St. Kitts and Nevis the idea of rights of workers. That is what the labor movement was all about, or is all about. And so we would not seek to violate that with anybody or any country. And so when it comes to our relationship with Cuba and the Cuban medical doctors, who we are so grateful for, the nurses, they have helped us tremendously and continue to help us tremendously. And we must be grateful as a country for their tremendous contribution. They have saved many lives and continue to save lives. The reason why we have specialists in certain areas at the hospital is because of the Cuban doctors. We have anesthesiologists, those who put us to sleep, nephrologists, those who take care of the kidneys, oncologists, those who deal with cancers. We had urologists who deals with prostate. We have a prostate doctor at the hospital, yes, because we realized people couldn't afford it. We had an endocrinologist that's a specialist in hormones and diabetes at the hospital. I'm wondering if people know that. We have a neurologist that's a doctor at the hospital who deals with the brain. We have a radiologist that's a doctor who reads the x-rays and CT scans and so forth, and who will soon be reading our MRIs when our MRI center is opened this year. So we have ophthalmologists who deals with the eyes. And so the Cuba medical program has been extremely beneficial to our people, and I'm proud of it. But the question was asked, is there violations of labor laws? And there's none. We contract the Cuban doctors directly. We pay the Cuban doctors directly. Before the Cuban doctors come, they have to go through an interview process. And we determine which one would come. So the Cuban government cannot choose who to come to St. Kitts and Nevis. We say who are available, and we do the interview, and then we choose. Then they sign a contract. The contract is signed between the doctor and the Ministry of Health. It is not signed between Cuba and the government. The doctors sign their own contract. And what is in the contract is what any other health professional gets when they sign a contract with St. Kitts and Nevis. So they get the same remuneration as our own specialists here. The same benefits they get, including their vacation time and the travel. They can open their bank accounts here. And so we are making sure that the Cuban doctors who come here, that they can benefit from all of the good labor practices that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so in my statement, I think I made that abundantly clear. If a question is asked that is a legitimate concern, I think it is incumbent upon us to answer it legitimately. And so we are proud of our program with Cuba, and the Cuba medical program continues to benefit our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me go on to say that many of our people have studied in Cuba. I myself studied medicine in Cuba. And Cuba is seeking always to see how can we have people come to Cuba to study in the areas that we have to send doctors for, so we don't have to send any doctors. That is how transparent and open and genuine Cuba is with it. We can give you a spot to have a specialist in brain, in kidneys, in prostate, and so forth. So you will have your own people trained in these specialized areas, and Cuba would not have to be sending specialists to you. And so we have had a number of persons who have gone to Cuba to study, such as Dr. Joyette Woodley, who is the first head of surgery in St. Kitts, first female head of surgery in St. Kitts and Nevis. Dr. Davine Wilkin, who is the medical chief of staff. And I think she might be, I'm not sure, could be the first female medical chief of staff. And if you look across the health sector, a lot of our people who went to Cuba to study who are actually keeping up the health system here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so in a real sense, the Cuban medical program has been a good program for our people, and I'm immensely grateful for it, and the program will continue to serve our people. And there are no labor laws that are violated. They have their rights like any other worker here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But it was important that we answer that question based on what was asked, and that is what my statement sought to do. And so if you listened to the discussion in Jamaica and Guyana, that's CARICOM position, because I think almost all of our countries have the same arrangement. And so there is no violation of labor laws when it comes to employing Cuban doctors in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Good morning to all. I'm Kyleone Johnson, SKNIS.
Good morning.
Allow me to pivot back to the Nigeria trip. As you mentioned, Nigeria is one of the largest economies on the African continent. Were there any particular sector or sectors in Nigeria that you believe offer the most promise for investment in St. Kitts and Nevis? And my second question is, my colleague, Ms. Brandon, hinted to, I don't think she didn't want to use success, but the progress we have made in homicides and murders in St. Kitts and Nevis. But the troubling issue that continues is accidents, very deadly accidents, very serious accidents. Some comments I've seen is that the government needs to do more. Recently, legislation was passed to offer stiffer penalties, enact stiffer penalties. So my question is it as much as that the government has to do more, or is it the people themselves have to be more responsible?
Good. Thank you very much. I'll answer the last question first. When it comes to the accidents, people have to be more responsible. And I want to ask our people to be more responsible. We have, I think, the highest number of vehicles on the road ever in St. Kitts and Nevis. So we have a sudden increase in the amount of vehicles, there can be an increase in accidents as well. We have a lot of young people also who are getting their license as well. And so we have to make sure that our roads are safe, but our people have to take responsibility and just follow the laws. There's no place in St. Kitts that is far. And you see people flashing here and there. And you ask, what is all of this about? Not only that, we have good roads. The part of the highway we have just done, the St. Peter's Road we have done, and if you look at the main road in St. Kitts and Nevis, it's in very good condition. And so people drive too fast. And that is the main problem of people driving too fast. And lack of jokey and attention. However, as you see, we went to Parliament because we have not taken this lightly. And I want to thank the Honorable AG, Honorable Gad Wilkin, who has put the task force together to deal with this matter. And we have passed stiff laws. You know how much tickets are given out? A lot of tickets are being given out for driving fast without seatbelt, and you're just giving them out. And it seems like, well, it's not affecting people, even when we have increased the fees significantly. And people still continue to drive fast and without due care and attention. The next act is that we are now in the process of implementing very soon technology. You will just be receiving your tickets in the mail. So you think you drive fast or you bore stop and you got away? No. You'll see your ticket in the mail. And based on the issue, you'll be taken to court. So we are not going to sit by and allow people who are not taking the responsibility actions that they should take to make our roads unsafe. We have increased the stiff penalties, stronger laws. Now we are going to put the technology on top of it. And it will work. I said that before and it did, and it will work again. Because it's scientifically proven that it will work. But we are now in the process of getting the technology involved. Already we're picking up people on the cameras. We have already passed the laws. And people will start to receive their thing. And people are already submitting. Well, the AG disclosed that he has already received dashcam videos, We catch somebody, I think they run the red light on the Newtown Bay Road. So I need to ask the AG when that person going to be getting their ticket. Yeah. Somebody with a dashcam pick them up, and the AG has a secure email where you can send those videos, and he has confirmed that he has received dashcam videos of people violating the traffic laws. So we're not going to sit by and watch people violate our laws and make our roads unsafe, and we're going to implement the technology. So you think you drive fast and you think you'll get away? Your ticket for hundreds of dollars come in. And I want our people, just respect the laws. Keep saying it's a Navy safe. Because the very life you save might be yours. And so we are working on that front. You asked about the Nigerian trip and which areas we look at. We look at the area of agriculture, for example, and food security. Nigeria, I think, has some of the largest areas of arable land in the world, period. Just miles and miles of land, And that land can grow a lot of things that we buy from other places. So that can be another source for us to be able to get agricultural products. And then here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we're increasing our own agricultural production, and we have unique type of products here that they may not have. For example, I see people making soap of herbal, this and that. Those are unique brands. That is why we are so keen on intellectual property. So when these start to filter into markets, the intellectual property is protected. So we are stepping up to trade. That is why we had the Bureau of Standards get all of these accreditation, so we can accredit our products so that when they leave, people know that we are sending out safe products. In the economic zone in Nigeria, it is associated with a state-of-the-art lab that is accredited. So you want to know the products leaving have been tested in an accredited lab. And when they come, they can be tested in our own labs as well. So that is important. So the agricultural products, the area of energy, that is what we are looking at as well. The area of tourism is another area that we are looking at. We look at also the creative economy. As you know, Nigeria has Nollywood, correct? And I met with some Nollywood stars while I was there as well. I hear you. And the Nollywood stars, they're doing a lot of work, and we want to bring a team over here because we have our unique story to tell that the African continent needs to hear as well. And what they want to do is to help us to develop our own actors and actresses, our own people, behind the camera and in front of the camera. They have a lot of experience. They have a whole industry over there, and they have 250 million plus people, over 1 billion people on the African continent. You only need to reach a small percentage of that. We want to get our artists into Africa, our singers, our dancers. I spoke with the president of the Senate, who before carried a choral group to Africa, and I'm discussing with him that we want to send more of our people, let them perform at concerts and so forth. You have 1 billion people you can perform for. It's a whole world out there, that we have not even started to scratch properly yet. Our own people. If you go to Nigeria, unless you speak, nobody would know that you're not from Nigeria. You need to go and see where you come from. You'll be surprised. Go and see where you come from. It's interesting over there. And so these are areas, so even the creative economy. I can say the Honorable Minister Samuel Duggins will speak to you tomorrow, but he signed a memorandum of understanding with the royalty of the Warri area of Nigeria. And she has committed to work with us on the creative economy. You people out there, and they have resources too. It's not all the story you see in the media is true. Trust me. All those stories are not true. They have very good and positive stories over there that we need to learn for ourselves and see for ourselves. And then, therefore, we want to open up that market to our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we will continue to push on it very, very aggressively. Anybody else? Okay, sure.
Prime Minister, I heard
Yes.
earlier when you said that you spoke about the deficit with the USA. But given this strange way in which Mr. Trump's mind operates, and in light of the IMF's warning about the adverse economic impacts of tariffs on countries heavily dependent on the US, I imagine that the hub is one of these measures that will counteract that. But are there any other specific fiscal or economic policies being considered to buffer the economy against potential adverse effects from the trade war?
Right. What you're saying is absolutely correct. If these tariffs hit, there's hardly any country in the world that can escape. Not even the large economies can really escape them. Not China, not Canada, not Mexico. So our argument with the US is that we want to carve out, because with us, you have a significant surplus of $54 billion. So if the argument is these countries have surpluses with us and it's unfair to us, fair enough, what about the countries like us that have deficits with you? And so we are going to see what that would be. I think that question was received, and I think when the Secretary of State was in the Caribbean, he said he will take that back to Washington. And so we are waiting what the response would be. So part of it is to advocate for our own position in dealing with the matter. Advocacy and making our argument, which is a logical, practical, evidence-based type of argument and not emotional-based. I'm not making any emotional statements, because I think at the end of the day, I don't know how far emotional statements go. What I'm making are factual statements, measured statements, so that the facts can be looked at and decisions made based on actual facts. And so that is where we are. So our advocacy is important. The second aspect to it is to educate our people. Our people need to know. This is not government dependent, as some people want to make it out to be. This is beyond government. So our people need to come together and understand this. This would affect prices of certain things, or has the potential to affect prices of certain things, certain goods, certain services. We might be called upon to change what we consume, what type of services we access. We might be called upon to do that based on the cost. Because let's say you're accustomed to one particular type of rice, but that rice is coming from a country that there's a tariff. But you can get the rice, let's say, from South America, Guyana, northern Brazil, that is much cheaper. Then we might just have to say, look, we might have to eat a different type of rice. It is a reality. Otherwise, we'll have to spend so much more on the food coming from up north. A situation created not on our own doing, but because policies were made. Again, countries have a right to make their policies. I can't be upset with that. We have to ask our questions, what are we going to do for ourselves? That is the question that is being asked. So, one, as I told you, our own advocacy. Two, calling on our people now. Three, building resiliency. That is why now we are going to now start to, as I said, farm 100 acres immediately. And before the year done, we want to have about 300 acres under production of food for our people. That is why all this land we see around St. Kitts and Nevis with Guinea grass, we want to remove it and grow food. The persons on the step, a lot of our persons on the step who have been in the area of landscaping and so forth, we are going to move a number of those persons to the farms. Let us produce food. And that's going to help people to transition in the PEP, make the PEP sustainable, the STEP sustainable, because now they'll be working and producing, increasing productivity. We have to increase our own productivity. If you have people on this side and people have complained that you have so many people doing landscaping, how about if those people go on farms in agriculture to produce for our people? It's the same type of work, correct? Same type of work, but it's just that you're going into a productive area where you can produce food for the people and produce food for yourself. And so if each 10 acres is going to take 30 people, 100 acres is going to take about 300 people. 200 acres is going to take 600 people. 300 acres is going to take 900 people. That's producing jobs for 900 people, producing food for our people. So one of the ways is actually to go into large-scale farm production so that we can produce more of the foods that we need here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Open up new trade routes, such as to Nigeria, for example, or the African continent, seeking to open trade routes in northern Brazil. That is another one I think we are seeking to do as well. And then having investments coming. For example, I'm meeting with a company called Evergreen, sponsored by the Afrexim Bank, to invest. Discussions going on with respect to investments into aquaculture or fish. And then discussions into chicken production as well. We are now producing so much eggs in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have our own hatchery. We are now looking at a slaughterhouse. Our own animal production in Beaufort, which we are developing with Southern University. Thank God for Southern University, which is a black university from Louisiana. Very soon, I'm sure you have the date, we're going to launch the Cannabis Authority. You know who have been helping us with that? Southern University, which is the top university in cannabis production in the United States of America, that we signed an MOU with them. Not only that Southern University is helping us with our animal production, along with Ross University. And the cannabis industry is expected to create a whole new industry. We are developing our tourism. As you know, we have exploration to build the Ritz-Carlton. And our hope that the new reality in the world doesn't affect the investment, because it's a new reality. But things has been progressing well thus far. We want tourism to be strengthened. More flights are coming in. We're having a robust cruise tourism season. Very robust. The numbers have gone up. Numbers have gone up in all areas in tourism. Overnight stays and so forth. Construction. Bastia High School. The hospital. We'll see these later on. And I know the Minister of Housing will speak to housing as well. But that will not be left behind. We are actually progressing. Even though there have been some challenges, which I will never deny. But I will say clearly, if we bring in an investor and the investor does not live up to what is expected, we have things in there to protect us, you know. I think it's a Nevis has been protected. So all of these things, expanding the economy in different areas, becoming more food secure, and then the whole issue of energy security, because these are responses. But I did not start to respond now. I said from day one that we need to get quickly to a diversified economy, otherwise we'll be in trouble. If we had not started moving, we would have been way behind the 8 ball, you know. Even with the African, you know, the first country to sign an MOU with Afrexim Bank in terms of a direct project was St. Kitts and Nevis. I signed it first in Bahamas with the president present. Because I said, look, we have to move quickly to start to open up new opportunities. That is why you see I was able to get to Africa, because that had been in the planning for some time. This ain't just overnight. This has been from day one since I got into office. Let us pick up let's just run. Because this is what I thought could have happened. Let's get Tabasco in. Get the land. Let's farm hundreds of acres of land. We need water. Ask the Taiwanese, you know, we don't need no community center on this. I need water. You can't have a modern country without water. Talk to the Taiwanese. We need healthcare. We need a good hospital for this climate change. I said we need renewable energy. And I'm going to make an announcement on the renewable energy. Let's get geothermal going. I spoke to Mark. I said, you're in my opposition. But let us agree on this thing. This thing can transform us. And look how far along. We reach a point that has never, ever been reached in our history with respect to geothermal. And we are going to open up the bids document in May. The Green Climate Fund was here. And the head of the Green Climate Fund said, I know you all want to do 5 wells, but we want you all to do the full 9 wells and get rid and have full energy for St. Kitts and Nevis. Do you know what that will do for us? And we're going to open up the bidding document in May. I know that there are going to be challenges. But I think as the leader and the party in power and with a team, we need to start to put things in place so that there could be hope. There's a lot of hope. And we are not going to sit back and watch, whatever is happening and countries making their decisions or complain about their decisions. I'm not going to sit here and complain about the decisions that the President of the United States makes. No. He says he's making them in the interest of his country. How can I be vexed with that? So what are we going to do for ourselves? That is the question that is being asked. We have to do for self. That's what Marcus Garvey said. When he came here in the 1930s, he said, do for self and connect to Africa. He said that in the 1930s. He knew what he was saying. It's almost as if he knew the time would come when we will be left in a deep ocean to swim. And if we don't reconnect with our people, we'll have no hope. So this is not a new concept or a new idea. It's just that we have to heed it and build it out. Self-reliance, do for self. Because he who thinks he's responsible for you to eat will always believe that he controls you or she controls you, or whoever the entity is. So I'm not upset with any country. I'm saying to our people, we have to do for self. We have the issue with crime and violence all these years. We can't look to America to solve our problem and to Europe to solve our problem. We can partner, and we should always seek to have partnership, because partnerships are important. We can't be isolated in this world. However, we have to lead and make sure that what we do for our best interest. That is what has to happen. And so this situation has it, and so we have to collaborate with other countries in the world and see how we can position ourselves to survive in this world. We should do for self. OEC should work closer together. CARICOM should work closer together. Our people have to become more conscious as to what is taking place. And that is why I say we have to be responsible. I'm not seeing enough writing independently to assess the situation, apart from the partisan politics. I would like to see an assessment on the tariff and to tell our people this has nothing to do with the government. This is a policy by the United States of America. However, it can affect us like this, irrespective of which government is it. That our people get a different type of understanding of the realities. Bring on the economists from the universities, our experts. Have a meaningful discussion on one of these topics to educate our people so that they can understand what is going on in the world. Bring on the nutritionists who say you might not be able to eat Kellogg's cornflakes because the price might go sky high, but you can get a different type of cereal. You might have to grow food in your backyard. Not might, just grow food. I have peas, Yes, I have peas. I have some bananas coming to, Yes, with my peas. I have bananas too. And I intend to plant more things in my yard. Can you imagine if all these yards had something and you put all of that together, how much we'd be producing? This is a different type of world. It's a different type of world. And nobody's escaping. Who would have thought that Canada would be in the position it's in? Who would have thought that Canada is larger than the mainland of the United States of America? Has more minerals and all these different things. Yet Canada is almost being brought to its knees and have to resist. Canada. If Mexico, largest Central American country, being brought, Europe being brought. So we need these independent analysis where we escape the partisan politics where our intellectuals and experts can discuss these matters to enlighten our people. Because without the ideas, without the enlightenment, our people can be lost. Enlightenment is important. So I want to say that, as we discuss these matters, as the tariffs and all of these things are critically important. So we're looking at it from diversifying the economy, educating our people, advocating for ourselves, new trade routes, all these different parameters to help ourselves.
Mr. Prime Minister, I hear what you have been saying with regards to dialogue that needs to be done and the actual facts that we are in a trade deficit with the United States. There's a school of thought, however, and we have been seeing the conversation kind of playing out on various channels on YouTube, where it is believed that the United States might have a long-range goal about the relationship with the Caribbean, to make the Caribbean a lot more dependent than it is now on them and on the US dollar. And so they're saying that the tariffs that are beginning to be implemented, I think is from today, could eventually put pressure on the Eastern Caribbean currency, in which we are forced to devalue the currency against the US dollar. We're talking about very high inflation and a whole range of other things that are associated that create an environment that is not in favor of the small island states and create a situation where the United States now has financial or fiscal control of the region and ties it in with the US economy. Has that been a consideration of the Monetary Council or the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's strategy or review mechanisms?
Right. So in the last Monetary Council, a number of things were discussed with respect to what the implications and impact could be. Those ideas, those thoughts that are developing, in some quarters, and every thought needs to be, of course, examined as well. But at the Monetary Council, a specific idea of such has not been discussed. I can say that the EC dollar is pegged to the United States dollar. And our reserve that we have, that we keep above a certain percentage, that is why our money doesn't fluctuate, because we have substantial reserve to back whatever we decide our rate with the United States is. So that is the present situation as we speak. I don't know how else that can change in terms of the full incorporation, but that is how the EC dollar is actually positioned. Now, if the United States puts tariff, meaning that when the United States imports stuff, that those stuff will be higher. As a matter of fact, the demand, therefore, might go down because people have to pay a higher price for good, the demand goes down. The United States dollar might go up. It can happen like that and have a deleterious effect, But what is happening with some people is that, as you can see, others are seeking to establish trade in a different currency. So you can see China, South Korea, and Japan, for the first time in a meaningful way coming together to decide how they're going to respond to the tariffs. So what the whole issue of tariffs is creating, that the rest of the world is looking for alternatives. So that argument with respect to the Eastern Caribbean, I can say we are already pegged to the US dollar. As I can say with our economy, we are already, in a sense, in a serious trade deficit with the United States of America, in billions of dollars. So in a sense, the United States benefits significantly from the Caribbean. They benefit more than we benefit from them when it comes to trade. I don't know how much worse it can get. That is why we are saying this can't make sense for the Caribbean, but we'll wait and see. And, that argument, I think it can be looked at. And next Monetary Council, I can ask from the experts there, what are your assessment of an idea like this that is being espoused in the media? But as I said before, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. We have been through challenges in our history before: slavery, colonization, now independence, and I guess the struggle continues in a real sense. But I can always say that we are never alone. and we are not alone, and we have to seek to establish relationships where we can establish them for our own well-being and protection. But is it a very challenging period? It is. But is there ways to work around it? There are ways to work around it. And we will continue to see how we can work around it. Will there be pain? If the United States is saying they will have pain, we will have pain too. The United States is saying it will have pain. So if they're saying they will have pain, and our economy is pegged to them, then we will have pain as well. And those with the trade will have pain. So it seems like this is a period when the world will go through pain. But we have to educate our people and bring their consciousness up. Because people will try to make it partisan, a political partisan issue, and it's not. It is an international issue. Right? Those who have access to energy are those who will immediately do well. Can you imagine if we had our geothermal? Man, we'd be smiling. Say, okay, well, we have geothermal, we got water, we got land, we could grow food. The lights on, people have food and water, we can take on anything else. That is why you see me was pushing so hard. We have to get the geothermal. And I'll keep pushing it hard. We have to get it, we have to get it, we have to get it. We have to get solar energy, renewable energy. The Caribbean has a chance because it has access to renewable energy. If we get access to that energy, it will help tremendously in all areas. Our energy independence is our true, realistic economic and financial independence. For whatever it's worth, that is our number one goal. How can we harness this energy to serve both St. Kitts and Nevis, and if we can help even other countries around us?
Prime Minister, just one very quick question, please. With respect to the conversations you had in Nigeria, a lot of discussion about trade and agricultural development. Was there any consideration given to education and the opportunities there and tourism? Antigua tried that with questionable degrees of success, but Nigeria is literally a straight shot across to the Caribbean. Any considerations for tourism and education?
Right. So we spoke about education, spoke about healthcare as well, because Nigeria has a lot of resources. So yes, we discuss education and we discuss. So when the team comes, we will start to flesh out these things. But there's different, and we discuss tourism. They can invest in our tourism infrastructure here as well, because they can invest in hotels and our infrastructure where they can partner with us, so that there's room for that as well. And in terms of the movement of people as well, that I know was tried before. Maybe you need to look at it very much closer and see how we can better it. But there will come a time, because Nigeria is growing so much, and the West African and the economies are growing as well, that you'll have a large middle class over there who will be looking for places to go. Why not jump on a jet, come to the Caribbean for a week and head back over there? You don't have to go to Europe and pass over the Caribbean to get there. Even with that, we can be discerning, because if you have a population of 250 million people, and you have, let's say, 15 to 20%, worst case scenario, 15 to 20% at least upper to middle class, 20% of $250 million, of 250 million people, you understand how much? That's 1/5 of that. Well, 1 into 25 is what, 50 million people? So 50 million people have disposable income to travel. You don't want to tap into that. So if 2 million of them can come to the region, that's a significant boost in our tourism. So we have to cater as well. So yes, that was discussed as well, especially on the behalf of the Premier. He discussed that one as well.
I want to shift to healthcare, Mr. Prime Minister, with regards to the Climate Smart Hospital. What is the status of that project in terms of what stage is the development now, and how do you respond to concerns regarding the land ownership for that construction, for its construction? And in January of this year, there was a statement from the government signaling support for St. Kitts and Nevis nationals who may face possible deportation from the US and perhaps other countries. How many have since been deported?
Right. So as far as I know, only one. The last time I got an update was just one who was deported from the United States of America. If there's any more, I have to get an update. But that's the last update I got from the Chief of Immigration, Chief Jeffers, with respect to that. So I will say, that is where that is. However, moving on to healthcare, The issue of the land is settled. Let me say it that way. This is a national project, and nothing is going to frustrate that. So I would not even get into a discussion of the land area per se. There's going to be what you call a One Health concept. We will have medical school, vet school. We're going to put a research lab there. It's going to be a concept that we're going to really launch in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that area will become a health hub, where there's animal health, all the different health, because we believe in the concept of One Health, because animal health affects human health. If you have issues with animals and people eating meat, what do you think would happen to them? And some animals carry diseases that people can catch, correct? If you have plant health can affect human health. And human health can affect the environment, which can affect animals and plant. We're really one. Animal, plant, environment, we're just one. And so that we want to promote the concept of One Health. But let me tell you what I've gotten. I've gotten the schematics of the hospital that are finalized. So we expect construction to start within the first half of this year. That is what we're on track for. It's a major project, and of course, major projects they take a lot of planning and so forth. So I'm pleased with where we are, and so I'm going to get an official update. I got the official document for the schematics. I'm going to get the official update tomorrow, as it is laid out for me, just for me to be updated. Of course, we have done already. So we are very advanced in this project, and we're going to continue to pursue this project, as you can see, because it's important to have a healthcare facility that is up to standard, that is modern for our people. So we are going extremely well. And I want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan, for their significant contribution to St. Kitts and Nevis in the construction of this hospital that we are going to have here. While I'm talking about it, let me talk about LAMAT, Lesser Antilles Medical Assistance Program. It is a joint effort between the United States Southern Command, the Air Force, their medical doctors, with Taiwan, with St. Kitts and Nevis. And so the doctors, the healthcare professionals are here. They're doing ear testing. So they have tested hundreds of people. They're at the hospital, in the emergency room, in every area of the hospital, basically they are. And today is a health fair that will be had at the Newtown Health Center today and tomorrow. So I encourage people to go to Newtown Health Center today and tomorrow to be part of that health fair and to get the excellent care that they're offering. And so I wanted to say that and thank the United States government, thank the Air Force as well, the Southern Command, for leveraging this excellent program which we want to grow. And we also want to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan, for making available resources and their own medical staff or healthcare professionals to come into St. Kitts and Nevis and offer that to our people and to our own people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The Ministry of Health that has been working extremely hard to make sure that this goes well. From all indications, it is well received and our people are benefiting tremendously. So I want to say thanks to the United States government, thanks to the Taiwan's government, and thanks to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to work collaboratively to bring healthcare to our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Follow the deportation
Yes.
question.
Right.
When was that person deported, and what support has been given to them since
Right.
then?
So some people, that person was deported and came back to their family, basically. So they were able to come back to their family. That's one. And secondly, the last time that I got, and they would update me each time we get somebody from the United States, and that person, I think, came back in January and February. We just had one person who came back.
Okay, my final two questions, Mr. Prime Minister. As you mentioned earlier, you are one of the lead for a CARICOM, basically a committee on crime and violence.
Yes.
Do you intend to advance the public health aspect that you have basically introduced and brought to St. Kitts and Nevis, and which has been so successful? Do you intend to advance this approach as part of this committee for the wider Caribbean region? And finally, for me, today's World Autism Day. Would you care to give any word of support to persons affected by this, children and their family, their support structure on this very important day?
Yes. Thank you very much. I intend, of course, I've been espousing it at the level of CARICOM and the OACS, dealing with crime and violence from a crime and violence from a public health perspective. Not only that, the RSS will be having its regional meeting here, which will start, I think, is on Thursday, correct? And I'll be handing over to St. Lucia, Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And in that meeting, we'll have a presentation from St. Kitts and Nevis, or by St. Kitts and Nevis, with respect to our approach to crime and violence. So yes, we'll take it to the regional level and show what we have been doing here. It's a space where best practices can be adopted as such. So yes, we will do that. So we will take it. As a matter of fact, I think I mentioned before that I've asked for a public health experts to be a part of that 3-person team to lead on it in the region. So yes. On World Autism Day, I want to say to the parents and even to those who might be autistic that, this issue of autism, we are taking it very seriously. Persons have autism, they can be well adjusted if given the right intervention. All is not lost, and our people need to be sensitive to this as well. We are seeking to upscale our offerings here for persons who have to deal with autism in terms of getting a spectrum center and so forth. So we are in serious discussion. The CAPSEC was leading on it, and I'll get an update on it. But to all those who have to deal with autism, I want to say that you deserve all to be treated with all the rights that everybody else is treated with. This condition can be treated and managed, and all is not lost. And so I want to give my full support to this community. Okay, that's it. You have any more questions? Okay. Any more? Okay. All right.
Prime Minister, my last
Yeah.
question. Can you say if there is a resurgence of HIV/AIDS taking place in the Federation? And if so, is there any new strategy that has to be employed to combat this, or is it under control in a way?
All right. Thank you very much for that. We have seen 1 or 2 cases, I think, in the younger population. And so we have sought to, because you see, when you have strategies and tactics in dealing with public health issues, sometimes you have to shift and adjust based on what the situation is. Just like COVID, you had to change. If we are hit with dengue now, we have to change. If we are hit with a yellow fever, we have to change. Foot and mouth disease, you have to shift. So we have shifted in our technology, strategy, our tactics rather, to deal with it. So if you see, we have been out there much more at the school level, doing more testing and so forth in specific demographics to make sure that we continue to deal with it. HIV is not rampant and out of control in St. Kitts and Nevis. But we are so sensitive and we are so open with the data that anytime there's a little spike anywhere, anything that we don't like to see, we are going to call attention to it and we are going to act aggressively. So there is no out of control of this. However, I want to say to our people that HIV/AIDS is still real. Some people are taking it too lightly sometimes and say it has become a chronic disease because of the good medications and so forth. Asking people to safe practices still. Condoms should still be used. Abstinence is still an option. And therefore, our people will have to take responsibility. But education helps. And so we have really increased our strategy, our outings in terms of meeting the community, in terms of testing and so forth. And you'll see that being done robustly. But not just for HIV/AIDS, but for preventative medicine in general. Our people, we need as a people, all of us need to take better care of ourselves. We need to eat better. We need to exercise. Eating better sometimes means just cutting portion sizes. It means, having a better balanced diet. We know what we need to do. It means cutting out the sugar. We eat too much sugar, we eat too much salt. And these are not necessary. We need to cut back on these things and get a little bit of exercise. Go out the road a little bit, 15 minutes this way and 50. You ain't need no fancy exercise, you ain't need a gym. Put on some shoes and you walk 15 minutes from your house and you walk back 15 minutes. And that's enough. You walk a little brisk. And that's enough, man or woman, that's enough. And if you think it's boring, get a partner to walk with you. They walk down the road 15 minutes and come back 15 minutes and you're done for the day. You need a lot of fancy foot up. If you like the fancy thing, you can do that. But you don't need the fancy thing. All you need to do is walk fast. Walk fast, go, and walk fast, come. 15 minutes on, 15 minutes come back, and you're done. You're done. You'll be surprised. And a matter of fact, one of the most effective exercises is walking. Walking is very effective. There's hardly any exercise better than that. Some might say swimming, but we are not, you're not born to swim. You have to learn how to swim. But you're born to walk. 15 minutes go, 15 minutes come. And you're done for the day. You'll sleep better, your stress level will go down, your blood pressure will go down, your sugar will go down. Your whole health situation will improve and you'll live longer and healthier. So I want to promote that. Just give me half an hour for most days of the week. 15 minutes go, 15 minutes come. Even when you're walking, you could talk. You don't got to notice you. I ain't in the fancy shoes neither. Walk down the road and walk back up. Right? And that is all we're asking for. But we have to take good care of ourselves, and that is part of our responsibility. Thank you.
So I would allow you to make your closing remarks.
Yes, there are some things that I want to just highlight very quickly that I made some note of. Right. And the press asked the questions that I wanted to talk about with respect to the CBI program and the EU, because something just came out from the EU. Now we know the EU has changed its legislation to determine how you have visa-free access. We in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have done a lot of changes. We continue to engage the EU. We continue to do what was necessary. As I said when I came in, we were on the chopping block as far as the UK was concerned. We saw one country got visa denial during that time. We did a lot of changes and proved to them that we were willing to upgrade and change, and we did not lose our visa-free access. However, we cannot dictate what another country does or another region does, but we will do all that we can do to protect whatever relationship we have with the EU. And so we'll continue to work to strengthen our CBI program. Right now, we are setting up a regional regulatory body that I had asked for. I'm happy that all of us are on board in terms of the countries to make sure that the regional regulatory body can regulate all of the CBI programs and build more confidence and engender more confidence in our international partners. But St. Kitts and Nevis has done a lot of work when it comes to our CBI to strengthen it, make it more transparent, and make it less risky to our international partners as they might perceive it. But we continue to work, and we'll continue to engage, and we'll continue to try our best to preserve our relationships with our international partners. So I wanted to touch on that. Sometimes just having a CBI program, the CBI had become our number one revenue earner. And that is why I said we were in a very dangerous position. Because at the same time, we are seeking to make sure we do what we do to preserve our visa. We have to make sure that we balance that everything with. But one does not go against the other. Because the CBI is not about visa access. It's about investments. We are not doing this for visa access. It's about investments. And so we want to prove to the Europeans and so forth that this is about investments, not visa access. That is a different question. That is our good relations where our people can travel to and fro without impediment. But the CBI I want to say today is about investments, not visa access. We denounce any advertisement out there about visa access. We want this to be about investments and advancing St. Kitts and Nevis. We denounce anyone out there who is seeking to undersell our program. As a matter of fact, we are going to make a release very soon of persons who we are going to strike off to market and do business with St. Kitts and Nevis because they are in violation of our laws. We are serious about it. We want to say to people to make sure that you follow the laws. If you don't follow the laws, we'll have to take measures, which you'll see today. So we're going to do everything to fight to protect our country and our CBI program. The other matter I want to speak to our young people. We have a lot of scholarships. We're asking our young people to diverse places around the world. Go to the Ministry of Education and ask about scholarships. Take up the scholarships. I am begging for these scholarships so that you can get the opportunity to build yourself. We have Southern University. We have Monroe. We have India. I mean, so many countries. We have India, Cuba, Taiwan, Morocco, just many countries across the world. Every time I travel, we ask for scholarships. They give us scholarships. Scholarships are there. Go and get a scholarship. We don't care who you vote for or ain't vote for. We want to know, as long as you're a young Kittian, you have the capacity, you go and you qualify for a scholarship to get yourself a scholarship to advance yourself. We want our people to have access to good education. So that is what I want to remind our people about. And I think everything else that I had to update on, I think you have asked the question, and so I don't have to do it. But I wanted to speak to the CBI and also to speak to our young people about taking advantage of the many scholarships that are available in St. Kitts and Nevis at this particular time. Let me just wrap up by saying we have a beautiful country. Let us all work to preserve our beautiful country. To those who just want to spread gloom and doom, I am sorry for you that you want to paint your country in such a bad light. And I ask our people to protect the image of your country, irrespective of your political position. Do not risk that, because the consequences will befall all of us. And so with that, I want to say to our people, I want to thank you for the confidence that you have posed in me to really represent you. I want to say that this administration is putting people first with all that we have done in every sphere that we have worked in. It is to your benefit. It is to your advancement. May God continue to bless our beautiful federation. Have a wonderful day.